Dakilang musika. Sa panahong ako'y napapalibutan ng mga bagyo ng buhay. Ikaw ang nagsindi ng pag-ibig sa aking puso. Ang nagdala sa akin sa isang mundong higit na mabuti. Nagdala sa isang mundong higit na mabuti. Galing sa isa sa mga pinakasikat na kanta ng kompositor na si Franz Schubert na nabuhay noong ika-19 na siglo. Kami ang inyong mga kasama sa isang natatanging pagtitipon. To music, ang pagdiriwang ng ika-66 na anibersaryo ng Classical Music Service ng FEBC Philippines, ang 98.7 DZFE. Ngayong gabi at sa darating na linggo, hain namin sa inyo ang pagtatanghal ng ilan sa aming mga musikerong Pilipino na aawitan at tutugtugan kayo mula sa kani-kanilang mga tahanan. Nawa kayo ay pagyamanin at bigyang inspirasyon ng mga handog na ito. Hindi maitatanggi ang aliw na binibigay ng musika na siya ring pagpapahayag ng common grace na ipinagkaloob ng Panginoon sa sangkatauhan. Kasama ng buong FEBC, dinadakila namin ng Panginoon na siyang bukal ng bawat pagpapala at ang pinakamahalagang pagpapalang kanyang binigay, ang Ebanghelyo ni Hesukristo. Ako si Daniel para sa To Music ng DZFE. Please do enjoy. Para simulan ang ating programa, maririnig natin si AJ Consolacion II, organista at kompositor sa Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing na sinulat ni Robert Robinson noong 1758 sa paglapat ni Diane Bish.
So hello and welcome. Perhaps you've never heard of DZFE and we'd like to share a little bit about it. DZFE is FEBC Philippines' classical music service established in 1954 in response to a government invitation to set up a classical music station for the general public. Now, classical music stations do exist all over the world, but in the Philippines there is currently only one, and that is DZFE. And there are few, if any, elsewhere in the world that are run by a missionary radio network. So DZFE is truly one of a kind. So I'm Tiffany Leong Gabuya. I've managed the station since 2004, and these are members of my staff on site. This is producer JD Federico. This is my production assistant, Trisha Melo. And this is my production technician, Tam Canarejo. And my Tagalog or my lack of Tagalog is legendary in the network. So I've asked my staff to help me explain a little bit about DZFE and what it does. So, Tam, it's been a year since we had a pretty significant milestone, at least equipment-wise. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's always been a challenge for us to maintain a clear and good broadcast. Kaya naman last year ay nagpalit po tayo ng antena dahil yung dati pong antena natin ay nasira po ng kidlat. Kaya ngayon ay pinalitan po natin ng mas modern at upang mas maging maayos yung broadcast natin at mas malinaw po. And I think ang huling replacement po ng antena natin ay 1997 pa po, di ba? So, ginagawa pa natin ang ating makakaya, ang lahat upang mas yung reception po ng bawat radyo po from DZFE ay mas malinaw at mas maayos. And radio is still easiest to access kahit na yung kapanahonan natin ay puro gadget and internet. Pero mas okay pa rin po yung traditional radio dahil minsan kapag wala kang data or load, hindi mo na ma-access yung broadcast, di ba? Pero mas okay pa rin po yung traditional radio. Kaya naman that's why yung maintenance po ng broadcast natin ay sinisigurado talaga natin na mas okay siya at mas clear yung ating pinoproduce on air. Kaya naman po nagpapasalamat po kami sa patuloy na sumusuporta po ng broadcast ng DZFE at isama niyo po kami sa panalangin na laging mas maging maganda at mas smooth po ang ating broadcast.
Yeah. Actually, recently now, we dialed down our transmitting power from 20 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt to conserve our resources at this difficult time for FEBC. But we fully hope that when things normalize, we will be able to bump up our power once again to 20 kilowatt.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So thanks, Tam. DZFE's mission, as we like to say, is twofold: to foster an appreciation of classical music and the gospel of Christ. So, Jades, would you share something of how we do our work as a classical music station?
Yeah, tulad ng lahat ng station sa FEBC, DZFE has two aspects to its broadcast, public service and the gospel. Sa DZFE, ang public service namin is classical music. So we are on same footing, as it were, with the CCP in that we promote culture and the arts. So that is what we're all about. Classical music, it has a reputation of being intimidating. Nakaantok daw, sabi ng iba. But it is accessible. It has its own audience. It does have an audience. Although it does require a certain degree of technical knowledge, a certain amount of technical knowledge. And that also presents a challenge sa manpower ng DZFE in that hindi naman required na pag pumasok sa DZFE ay maalam agad sa classical music. But in the very least, dapat willing matuto yung staff namin about classical music. Not to become experts really, but to have in time we hope so. But to have a grasp of the subject matter of our broadcast. And of course there are other requirements for our staff as well, such as spiritual grounding. Since the gospel is the heart of FEBC and of DZFE's broadcast, dapat we understand what the gospel is, and we broadcast it in a manner that is clear, though I won't get too deep into that. And also, since we are an English station, there is also the requirement of communication skills. We should know how to communicate in the language that we broadcast. Now, the classical music circle in the Philippines is pretty tight-knit. Makakakilala yung mga performers, and we do tend to form bonds with them. But I do believe all over the world, the arts need more support than it is getting now. And that is especially true in the Philippines. But classical music is an international field. So that connects us to institutions all over the world, which is why we have numerous programs from overseas.
And then, of course, by extension, we offer our support as well to our classical music artists because They also need our help here in the Philippines, where arts, or rather support for the arts and culture is quite limited. Right, so as we have been saying all throughout, DZFE is a special or one-of-a-kind classical music station because we operate from a gospel-centered worldview. So how does that work, Trish?
So, most of DZFE's listeners ay hindi pa nakakilala kay Kristo. So, the gospel it confronts people's beliefs, so that it's not easily received always. So, we can understand that, and we understand why most people would be uncomfortable. But still, it is the mission of DZFE na maipahayag ang katotohanan ng magandang balita mula sa salita ng Diyos. So, we ensure that the gospel message we broadcast is malinaw at walang paligoy-ligoy. Makikita natin to in summary sa 5 solas. So, sola scriptura, in scripture alone. Solo Christo, in Christ alone. Sola gratia, by grace alone. Sola fide, by faith alone, and Soli Deo Gloria, for the glory of God alone. So we also present the truth of the gospel in a thoughtful way to engage the mind. So some of the longer features and programs that we have is Renewing Your Mind with our Sis Pro, which educates on fundamental theological doctrines. White Horse Inn, a roundtable discussion of what to know to help the Christian know what they believe and why they believe it. And Ravi Zacharias International Ministries, that helps the thinker believe and the believer to think.
Yeah. So these are, of course, the talk programs or the teaching programs, but the music itself represents a host of opportunities for us to engage with other worldviews and ideas. What is supremely important, of course, is that we engage with these ideas and that we treat the people who hold them with respect and with compassion, and above all, that we remain steadfast in the way we present the gospel. So when you think of FEBC, we hope you'll think of DZFE. Please continue to pray for us and do enjoy the evening.
Kabilang si Monching Carpio sa ating mga pangunahing gitarista. Tutugtugin niya para sa atin ang isa sa mga piyesa na isinulat ng Amerikanong gitarista at kompositor na si Andrew York. Ito ang kanyang piyesang pinamagatang Waiting for Dawn. Ang artistang si Joanne Sardenya ang nagtatag ng Harp Room, ang unang eskwelahang para sa arpa sa ating bansa. Aawitin niya para sa atin ang ika-23 salmo ayon sa pagsasamusika ni Rhett Barnwell noong 1986. The Lord is my shepherd. Makakapakinig din tayo ng dalawang maikling pakikipanayam sa dating mga station manager ng DZFE kasama ang kasalukuyang station manager na si Tiffany Leong Gabuya. Una, si Joy Dulaca Abiera, ang unang Pilipinong station manager ng DZFE na pinamunuan niya noong ikalawang bahagi ng dekada 70.
Tell me a little bit about how you came to FEBC and how you came to work at DZFE.
Okay. I was a fresh graduate from Silliman University with a degree in music. But I decided to stay with my mom because my mom was just widowed because my dad died when I was a junior in college. One of the things that I do is to play for evangelistic meetings, for concerts and all that. And in one of those evangelistic meetings, the speaker was Han Brown. I was seated at the piano. And towards the end of the meeting, as we were getting ready to leave, he came to me and he said to me, Joy, what are you doing with your life? I just graduated and I refused 2 job offers and I'm here with my mom and I'm still seeking. And she said, if I invited you to come to Far East Broadcasting Company, will you come? I said, what's that? She said, remember, I was a 22-year-old graduate. She said, it's a Christian radio station. I said, oh no, I don't want to work with radio. She said, no. We have a classical music station with a brand new manager that is a department head of the music department at Westmont College in the United States. That attracted me. And so he invited me to come. Now you have to remember, I am from Mindanao. I went to school in the Visayas and visited Manila, but I don't speak Tagalog. So I don't understand Tagalog. I said, if I go there, I won't be able to communicate. But my mom, who's a very dear Christian, she said, if God is calling you there, then maybe you should go. I said, what will a classical music station do? I have more opportunities here to perform, to speak, to do all that stuff. She said, just try it. So I went, and everybody there was Tagalog. And then as soon as I got into the compound, I noticed that a lot of them was a little older, and I was so young. So I said, oh, I don't want to be with these old people. But Mr. John Hubbard was such a wonderful man that he talked to me, and he asked me a lot of questions about music. That began the relationship of working with a man like him with so much knowledge, and I learned. So that's how I started in FEBC at DZFE. John Hubbard and I sat down. Hubbard told me that when he came to DZFE, to FEBC, all they were doing was getting, because we had a whole bunch of records.
Right.
I learned what they did was to play records, just records, no programming. And so it was just like that. But people were just flocking because at that point, aside from Radio Veritas, which broadcasted about 30 or 40% of their time to classical music, we were the only ones playing classical music starting at 7 in the morning to about 12 midnight. But by the time I arrived, John Hubbard already started programs with commentary. And so he said, do you think you can do this? To write scripts? And I said, well, I never wrote scripts, but I minored in English literature. So he gave me a book that we used in college, which was like a humanities book. And I said, hey, that's my textbook. So what we did was we programmed music. I would take several records and play programming them, telling them what the music was supposed to be. For example, we always started with an overture, something that's easy to listen to attract the listeners. And then we will probably in the middle do a concerto, and then we end with something that's contemporary. So it was programming. To me, it was a learning experience because I just graduated from college. And so I knew a lot about music because my university is Silliman University, which is a Christian university. And they all a whole bunch of records, and we worked with that. So to me, the transition was not difficult. I just had to learn from John Hubbard how to write teaching scripts. I always had to have John Hubbard check my work. To me, I look at John Hubbard as a mentor because of the fact that he was the head of the music department at Westmont College. So I learned a lot from him. And I was a fresh graduate, so I had a lot of ideas, I had a lot of knowledge because I just studied music, and a lot of the music that they teach you in is really teaching music, and then of course you perform. So a lot of it I learned from him. Really the one that directed the steps that DZFE would take. I never expected that DZFE would have such an impact when even the First Lady would call you. And who would think that that would happen to a young person that went to college in a little university town, you know? But God has used that. God is just so wonderful in the little things that we do, how He honors you, you know, and gives you all the wisdom. To this day, I even, because I have some scripts that I brought with me, and I look at that, I said, how did I even know that? You just are overwhelmed. The most important to me, and I don't want to be misunderstood, was our listeners were not only the Christians. All we did was to do some vignettes that we would play in between. And you don't realize how much that has spoken to those people who listen to the music. Because one of the things that I prayed each day when I go to office, I said, Lord, help me choose a vignette that will fit what I'm playing on the air.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, especially operas and things, that some of the stories are bad, some of the stories are yeah, and then you play a vignette. And my prayer was always be, Lord, show me the right vignette. So we had people like Harold Sela would do that, and then we had Chuck Swindoll, and among the Filipinos we had Ramon Sanchez that wrote. And then a lot of those vignettes have helped. For example, I have a young priest going to school, and he wrote to me, I love all the music that you play, and I really appreciate how you make my evenings worth it. But more than anything else, I'm so overwhelmed by those little messages that you put on the air. And that encourages you. To this day, I still thank God about my stint with DZFE because I had a chance to be able to speak to people that I will probably never have a chance to share with them the gospel.
Patuloy ang pagtatanghal. Heto naman ang cellist na si Renato Lucas, na kasalukuyang pinamumunuan ang National Music Competition for Young Artists o NAMSIA. Sasamahan siya ng Casa Celli Quartet na binubuo nila Job Polvoriza, Angelita Morris, Kyungmin Nam at Rosabel Cam. Tutugtugin nila ang paglalapat ni Job Polvoriza ng Prayer, isang bahagi ng From Jewish Life ni Ernest Bloch, isang Suwiso-Amerikanong kompositor na nabuhay noong 19 at 20 siglo. Ititingin ko ang aking mga mata sa mga bundok. Saan baga manggagaling ang aking saklolo? Ang saklolo sa akin ay nanggagaling sa Panginoon na gumawa ng langit at lupa. Ang maestro ng polyphony, si Orlando de Lasso, na nabuhay sa Flandes noong ika-16 na siglo, ay isinamusika ang ika-120 salmo. Levavi oculos meos in montes. Pamumunuan ni Dr. Beverly Shangquan Cheng ang isang koro na nakilala sa pagtanghal nito ng early music sa Las Piñas International Bamboo Organ Festival, ang Villancico Vocal Ensemble.
See
Sunod naman nating mapapakinggan ang isa pang panayam kasama ang isa pa ring dating station manager ng DZFE. Pinamunuan ni Maria Teresa o Rexy Domingo ang estasyon noong dekada 90. Kanyang makakapanayam si Tiffany Leong Gabuya.
I was actually teaching in UP before, and I had a roommate who was listening to DZFE. I was in between jobs. My contract was not renewed with the university because they needed me to do my MA, and I was quite lazy to do that. And she told me, why don't you apply at DZFE? There's a classical music station somewhere in Bulacan at that time. And when I heard Bulacan, I said, I wanted to work in the city. I've always been a city girl. And anyway, she said, you will be able to do a good job there because I took up speech and drama. I remember the station manager. At that time, it was Miss Carmi Barutilla. I was taken in. I trained for it. Eric Dizon, the chief announcer at that time, made sure I went through all the pronunciations and things like that. In 87, I became an announcer. After about 3 years, I became the station manager. That was in 1990. There were some shiftings in the management at that time, and God just put me there. Basically, okay, I moved from this table to this table, so I became the station manager. But at that point in time, I pretty much knew what I wanted to do. I just had to kind of tweak my mind into, hey, I would still be producing programs, but this time I have to oversee the operations. Mm-hmm. I have to attend the management council meetings. I have to make sure that my staff members are contented, mm-hmm. they're happy.
How big was the staff at the time?
Like full-timers, maybe about 4.
Mm-hmm.
But there were other talents that come in and go, or like I would probably call them seasonal. They stay for like a few months, and then we had other programs as well from the United States and canned programs. So basically, that's.
But even during your time, the staff was never a full complement.
No. For some reason, we accepted that. We always, took more load, and we were okay. Especially when we were in Karuhatan. When I became station manager, I lived there. Mm-hmm. It was one of those privileges / obligations. Mm-hmm. And since I lived there, it wasn't all that hard to assume more work. You just walk onto your voice track room, that was how it was called, and you make programs. I would take my little girl at that time. She was with me. I just tell her, hey, you be quiet. There were many programs that I did. She was just sitting on the floor. I would just shush her and say, you just be quiet. So it was good. I loved working at that time, being in that compound. It was really wonderful. This is not like your ordinary job wherein you can be sure that you have a paycheck every time. There were times then when we had to pray for funding. That was difficult. I guess the struggle to stay there and to be seeing how God provides, that's immeasurable. I am just so thankful for the Lord. I know that He gives many gifts, but I would say that this is one of the best gifts for me. And many open doors emerge from being part of DZFE. Many people I've met, and even in New Jersey where I'm based now, I meet a lot of people who became friends just because they were listening to FEBC.
Noong mahulog ang Koreanong baritone na si Byung-in Park sa soprano na si Rachel Herodias, nahulog din siya sa mga awiting Pilipino. Aawitin nilang dalawa ang Minamahal Kita ni Mike Velarde. Hindi mo ba nadarama, Sinta? Bawat kilos ko'y pangarap ka. Minamahal, minamahal ka. At nasa iyo ang danging pag-asa. Asan mong dalangin ko tuwina? Minamahal, minamahal kita. Minamahal, minamahal kita. Ay di mag-iba. Hindi mo ba nadarama, Sinta? Bawat kilos ko'y pangarap ka. Minamahal, minamahal kita. At nasa iyo ang tanging pag-asa. Asan mong dalangin ko tuwina? Minamahal, minamahal kita. Ang tula ni Robert Frost na The Pasture, na isinamusika naman ni Randall Thompson bilang bahagi ng kanyang Frostiana noong 1959, ay umaalala sa isang mas simpleng nakaraan at umaasa naman sa isang mas mabuting hinaharap. Pamumunuan ni Christopher Arceo, ang award-winning all-male choir na Alaron.
I
Diyan nagtatapos ang To Music, ang soiree program ng DZFE para sa aming ika-66 na anibersaryo. Ang inyong natunghaya ay isang pinaikling bersyon ng aming soiree series. Samahan niyo kami para sa mas marami pang pagtatanghal. Ang To Music ay sumasaimpapawid sa 98.7 DZFE FM simula alas 7 mamayang gabi at sa kaparehong oras sa June 8 Lunes, June 10 Miyerkules at June 12 Biyernes. Ang mga video ng aming mga programa ay i-upload sa YouTube channel ng DZFE pagkatapos i-ere ang mga programa para sa radyo. Minsan pa ako si Daniel, salamat sa pagsama sa akin at sa buong DZFE. Para sa higit pang impormasyon tungkol sa DZFE, Manila's Fine Music Station at ang classical music service ng FEBC Philippines, pumunta lamang sa aming website dzfe.febc.ph. Magandang gabi.